Hello, everyone, and welcome back to From the Ground Up podcast. So we have an awesome episode lined up for you. Double trouble talking about the Daytona Reptile Show that was last weekend. But before we do that, please check out Snake Discovery. They are sponsoring this podcast. So check out Emily and Ed and all the animals that they have, as well as their YouTube videos. They have lots of awesome videos, as well as some awesome animals becoming available. So please go check them out. And if you could, please go check out portcitypet.com. So I have some substrates available. I just took pictures of gecko ledges as well as coconut hides today, and I am working on a new substrate mixture. So I will tell you guys all about that later. I actually just got done dropping off a whole bunch of substrates, so I'm also excited to tell you about that. Other than that, that's really all I've got for you. Kind of a little bit of a teaser of what we've been what's been going on here. That's really it, because I want to talk about Daytona Reptile Show. So we are going to have, and these are two guys who are not strangers to the podcast. We have Phil as well as Justin.
What up,
How's it going, fellas?
How we doing?
Hello.
So
I'm sharing the link around real quick on the various platforms.
Oh, that's important. I appreciate it. So, Phil, I know Justin was not a Daytona virgin, but he's still pretty young in the game as far as Daytona goes. But when was the first time you were at Daytona? And was it Daytona?
The first time I was at Daytona was 2004, and it was drastically different than what it is today. A lot of the same vendors, but a lot of vendors that don't come south anymore. There also used to be venomous and large constrictors, which there isn't anymore. So it's still the same old homely show, like it's our show, but it's evolved into something completely different.
Now, I always hear people say how Daytona is not what it used to be, in quotes. Is it that it's not what it used to be, or are there now just other shows that compete with it in size?
I would say that I've never been to Tinley. I've never been to Pomona, but I've been to Hamburg and I've been to South Carolina in both Columbia and Myrtle Beach. I've been to those shows. And I would say that Daytona has always been a large show. But from what I gathered back in the day, it was the show in the U.S.
This year was like its 31st year. I mean, it's definitely got to be one of the longest running shows, if not the longest running show.
Yeah.
Damn. So as far as vendors go, is there anything in particular that you guys saw as far as setups and stuff like that? Is that stuff that you guys look out for?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Billy's table, which is where we were hanging out a good bit of the time. Billy put real effort and money into his table setup, and it looks really good, man. It looks so clean. He's got the LED lights. He's got the acrylic cases and everything like that, and Billy's got it.
Iguanas reptiles.
Yes, Billy's got it down pat.
Yeah, it was actually just over at the Podfather's house. I didn't know we were swapping over. Billy's going to be on Morelia Python Radio tonight.
Yeah, him and Casey.
Yeah, I guess talking about Daytona, and nor Eric and I knew that we were both having these exact shows until about a half hour ago. More like
it's
2
cool.
hours ago.
It's good, man. I like it.
Yeah, it was funny. But is there, as far as, are there any like special, I know especially when I go to Tinley, I mean, Tinley, there's always a few unique setups, whether it's Rare Earth or say like Garrett Hartle setup and stuff like that. Is there anything in particular that was different?
I don't think so. Not for me, at least.
Well, I'll tell you, just like observations for COVID, because this has been my first show during all the COVID stuff, is that they promoted the show as being like completely sold out on the vendor tables and completely sold out in terms of the hotel rooms and all this other stuff, but it looked very sparse, excuse me. And I realized that it wasn't because people weren't there, it's because they widened everything to make it, social distancing, which I thought was really cool. The aisles were almost double the width as they normally were. And then you had people that were legitimately spaced out. which is great for myself who doesn't like to be elbow to elbow, even if there isn't a pandemic going on. You know what I mean? But there was also a lot of people that were moved around, which was interesting because, like, for example, there's an older gentleman who drives down from New York who sells reptile and amphibian books. And he's like the book guy. He's a major book collector. And he's always had the same little tiny 2-table spot. And this year they kind of put him in the corner, but he had like 4 or 5 tables and he could sprawl everything out. And it was it was good looking. So it was nice to see a decor change. You know what I mean?
So despite there being more room and larger aisles, was there still the same amount of vendors, or did they whittle it down a little bit?
I think there was an adequate amount of vendors to make the show worthwhile. I think there was less vendors, and I don't know if that was because of COVID or because of people have just been messed up the past 6 months. You know, there's certain individuals like Dr. Elliot Jacobson from University of Florida. He's one of the leading Dramarchon breeders in the country. You know, he usually has a table with a ton of different specimen on it. And it's funny because usually by like Saturday morning at 11:30 noon, he's sold out of all his animals. But like he wasn't there. Again, he's an older gentleman, and I can understand why he might not want to come. A couple other smaller breeders that I know didn't come because of tegu and iguana stuff. You know, they're banned in Florida now, so who knows? Any number of things. Uh-oh. We lost him.
I am the captain now.
You are the captain. Thank God you have good teeth.
It was fun.
It was a great time, man.
I
don't want to talk too much about it because I know Joe's coming back.
Well, I wrote an article on it for the magazine, actually, for this upcoming issue. I cranked one out. And, you know, it definitely was interesting as far as the COVID thing, because I don't think anybody really knew how it was going to play out. You know, was it going to be a complete free-for-all because, you know, half the people weren't wearing masks, half the people were, which wasn't the case. But,
right.
You know, it was surprisingly, that's one of the things I talked about the most was like I don't think I saw anybody in there that wasn't wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Which was impressive. But I also think part of that was the door people were probably like, look, you either come in with one or you don't come in at all. And,
is that norm in Florida at the moment?
Where in?
Mass in all stores? Is that still going on?
For the most part, I think stores that are, I think there's a lot of stores that mandate it, and there's a lot of stores where they're almost afraid to mandate it because they won't piss off the clientele. But at the same time, certain counties like my county, Broward and Palm Beach, it's mandatory. And they also have curfews on certain businesses. So like bars and restaurants, you have to be closed, completely closed, done by 10 p.m. So certain things.
Yeah, because I think that was a big qualm about some of the shows that have been going on here is that like it's really willy-nilly. So it's nice to see at least that everyone's at least trying to do their best.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it was just people were willing to, like, whatever it took to have a reptile show again, you know?
Yeah.
Like I know some of the Repticons have still been going on, and it sounds like those haven't been too bad either, but I don't know. I mean, just it seemed like the mask, I didn't hear anybody complaining about having to wear a mask. I didn't see anybody not wearing a mask. Everyone seemed to be pretty down with it. And I think maybe it's just because we're at a point where we're just used to wearing it all the time, but
might be.
How did it seem attendance-wise? I mean, do you think that there were less people there because of COVID, or?
See, that's tough because they spread everything out more. So it does seem like maybe there was less people. I was helping Reptiles Express with some live stream stuff, and they talked to Wayne Hill, and I think he was saying that it was like a record year. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know. It was kind of hard to tell. Like it seemed like there weren't as many people as last year, but at the same time, like I said, because everything was more spaced out, I think maybe that may have made it appear to be slower than it actually was, but who knows?
Well, I'll say this too is, Justin, I don't know what time you got to the show, but I was fashionably late due to previous entertainment the night before. And usually we get there like an hour and a half early, and we all stand in line in like the queue line in the massive hallways of the convention center. This year they didn't do that because of social distancing. They basically had one single line that wrapped all the way around the entire backside of the convention center.
That's a big building for anybody that doesn't know.
A huge building. It had to have been, what would you say, maybe 300 or 400 yards long?
No way. There's no way it's that.
You think? You figure each side of the building is at least 100 yards, minimum.
I just know it's exhausting to have to walk around.
Yeah, it's exhausting to have to walk around the entire building. So the people were lined around the entire building. So when you look at it like that, it's very impressive and like, wow, that's a lot of people. But then you think about it, it's like probably the same amount of people that they're just like S-coiled normally in the hallway.
Like packed, like a mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Or not the mitochondria, the endoplasmic reticulum.
Yeah.
Oh, coiled up in there. So
sure, whatever he said. Yeah, man, but it sounds like it was an awesome show. Was there anything animal-wise? Any particular animals that you saw that surprised you or that you don't see very often?
Bears, rats.
Bears, rats.
There's a ton of bears, rats. I love it. I've never seen that many bears at a show. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I would have bought every single one in that building if I could have. All of them.
I guess that's probably something that you get down there in Florida. You get a lot of older school colubrid folks that we certainly don't have here up at our shows. Yeah.
Excuse me. There was a lot of good colubrids and a lot of good price tags on colubrids. I remember a long time ago, colubrids were pretty cheap, and now they're not because fewer and fewer people are breeding them, and the ones that are breeding them, they're tip-top quality and they deserve the appropriate price tag. You know, I saw some locality-specific California kingsnakes that were well in excess of $100.
There's a lot of kings.
A lot of kings, desert kings, black kings, tons of different corn variations. You know, Abbott was there, which is awesome, showing off his crazy genetics.
Best corns in the world, man.
Best corns in the world. No offense, Joe.
Well, I mean, I think
he's a super nice guy too.
He's got many decades on me.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I noticed, which I had only seen previously at the only time I'd ever seen at Daytona previously was this last year's Daytona, which was, I'm always going to say wrong, Strophaurus geckos, the golden tails that shoot the sticky stuff out of their butt.
Mm-hmm.
I saw 3 different breeders with them, all great looking specimens. That was impressive to me. You know, seeing rarer and off the wall kind of stuff.
So I feel like there's so much stuff I missed. Like I saw people posting pictures of things. I'm like, I don't even remember seeing that. But at the same time, I don't know. Like I didn't really slowly walk through the show and really look at all the tables. It was like searching for beards, searching for subocs, you know. Chondros, there really wasn't any decent. There was one chondro in particular that was really nice. And it was a Waego, but it was also an import. It looked kind of rough. And then there was just sort of your average, like, imported Arus, imported Biocs, imported Saurongs, like, you know, chondro. There's never any, you notice that there's never any captive bred chondros for sale at any shows. Ever.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems as though people don't. Chondros sell well online, and I think people just.
The internet kills it. And I think the internet also put a hurt on this show too, because I feel like there was plenty of people, plenty of breeders that opted out because they had sold their product online or they planned on selling their production.
Yeah, I think that's why. I mean, even people ask, you know, why am I not doing shows? Yes, it's COVID. At the same time, like snakes are selling online. There's not even a reason to do shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and I'm kind of that opinion with shows. It's like when you look at the cost of gas, when you look at the cost of hotels, when you look at the cost of tables, you look at the cost of, you know, food and all that stuff. It's like you have to damn near sell out in order to really, I think, you know, make anything out of it. And so for me, like if we're wanting to do the magazine to have a booth next year, and you know, it's one of those things where I don't want to do every show I can. Like I'd rather do 1 or 2 huge shows like Tinley or Daytona, where I know I'm probably not going to make a ton of money, and that's okay because I'm going to be there anyways, just hanging out, whether I'm vending or not. You know, it's just one of those things where it's like it's about the experience. It's about hanging out with everybody. For me, you know, the show's just a bonus.
It's also, especially having something like for the magazine. I mean, that is a perfect Tinley or Daytona is the perfect venue because, I mean, a Repticon, you're going to get a bunch of families with kids and stuff like that coming by. These are going to be like the very serious herpers at your Daytona, your Tinley, and that's really your market more so than, you know, the soccer mom with 3 kids with her.
As long as they can read, I don't care who wants it.
Exactly.
That's true.
That's
true. I'm sure if you brought hard copies of the magazine, you would sell a shit ton of them.
I want to, yeah, and that the only issue there is it's just like there's a very large upfront cost with printing in bulk. So we'd have to sort of plan it accordingly. We tried to get in last minute this year, and we thought about just having some shirts and stuff. So we're going to plan it a lot better next year and make it happen.
It will happen.
It will happen. So.
Yeah, I think even if you can't do it, man, I bet a bunch of us would, if you were able to like kickstart it type of idea, just with the people who are interested in seeing the magazine continue to exist, man. I mean, I'm sure so many of us, including myself, would be glad to support that just to make it happen.
Yeah, it's not crazy expensive to print in bulk. It's just you have to print so much that it's expensive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're not.
I mean, I would say, you know, we give you a certain amount of money, and if you don't end up selling them all at the show, you know, give some to me. I'll sell some on my website. I'll buy, you know, a certain amount of them and whatever, and then we can all sell them individually at shows. A lot of us do shows, and so even if you had to print a shit ton of them, we could find homes for them.
Well, the nice thing is too is like unlike snakes, you know, obviously you're not having to take care of dry goods, and you know, we can sell them cheaper than what we sell them for with the print on demand service, which is something we want to do. Like we'd love to be able to have it so that we can order them each month and just mail them out ourselves, but that's that requires a lot of like continual sort of capital coming in order to do that. But I don't know, we'll see. It's still in its infancy, and I'm still not
I framed this one.
Excellent.
The one issue that still haunts me.
Why?
Because we had like a lot of language in that one.
Like
that was when we were kind of like, I was telling Billy, I was like, man, it's fine. It's just we'll have language. If parents don't like it, they don't like it. And then I got a handful of complaints. I was like, never mind. So
be nice to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that now it's clean.
It is now after that issue. Yeah, that was the only issue that we had. And I'm not going back and redoing the whole thing. So
that was one of the best issues, though, man. That was our first issue.
It was.
You know,
it's funny to see how it, like looking at when we use our old design program, or when I used our old design program, watching it sort of evolve from being sort of
trying to get my screen to correct. It's
I see the color
orange now. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, man, I don't think. I mean, for us, that doesn't detract from the issue by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, I had some teachers that were like, you know, I really want to show this to my students and have them read it, but I can't really do that if, you know, you got that crazy British bastard dropping F-bombs and stuff.
I'm so out of touch with how normal people live in society. I'm just like, I hang out with fellow savages and we talk snake stuff. I mean, I don't really think about the fact that, you know, there's good information here in which, you know, I'm sure you could share in a legitimate setting and you know, teach people different things about these animals. So makes sense.
You know, what's funny is Zach Loffman, who you've had on the show and who we're going to have on THP on the 3rd. He has a herpetoculture class that he teaches. He's a professor of, and he told me he makes the magazine required reading, which I thought was
that's fucking cool.
Awesome, man.
I didn't hear that. When
I told you that.
I don't remember. But that's awesome.
But I'm curious to hear like what that class sort of is all about. Is it like
just showing people this is what happens when you ask a question in a reptile group, and you just see the battle ensue, and take notes. Maybe jump in there with a comment or two, stir the pot.
Where is he a professor at?
A
University.
Yeah, it's in West Virginia, right?
That would be amazing to sit in on a couple of those classes.
Yeah, I think, and they do have like an online degree. I mean, if anyone was, say, listening to this podcast who has a bachelor's, I believe you can do a master's online. And it's like very catered to like herpetoculture, not even necessarily, the academic side of it. They do a lot of like husbandry stuff and a lot of really, really cool things. And he's actually one of the few, academics that doesn't completely ignore us, right?
Yeah, he's a very cool guy. He's awesome, man. I'm super excited to get him on the show because, I mean, after watching him on yours semi-recently within the last couple months, right? Hearing him talk about crypto and stuff, I have so many questions that I want to ask him, not only about that, but about, just the professorship and all that stuff. And cool, he's kept a lot of cool stuff too. He's a cool guy.
Oh yeah, he produced a whole bunch of false water cobras this year, as well as some Barons racers. I think
he has freaking crawfish named after him.
Really?
Also cool. Yeah,
that's cool.
Oh, and they're super dope looking. I'll bring one up in 1 second here.
Yeah, it's like crazy blue, right?
Yeah, so he's definitely named a bunch of different species. Sorry, Zach, I don't know.
He's the crawdaddy.
Which ones exactly? But I'll pull up some of the ones at least that come up.
Dude, that's a freaking lobster.
Yeah, that
ain't a crawfish. That's a freaking lobster.
Yeah, but this one is the one that's named after him. This cool ass blue one.
That's so cool.
Isn't that dope? Wonder how they taste.
I was gonna say, I think I've fed that to a Dumo monitor once or twice.
No, and these are like, right in our backyard. I mean, say if you're in the Midwest or something like that, like these things are in Ohio and no one's ever seen them before, and they're blue.
That's crazy.
It looks like an emperor scorpion.
Yeah, exactly. Pandemus. Imagine that thing like walking across your yard. It's awesome.
He's second guessing my sanity.
Dude, we should keep crawfish.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
That should be kind of cool.
I've tried to in a tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never went that great.
We had some at a nature center I worked at, and it was fun to throw like some thawed out shrimp in there and watch them like kind of fight over it. And there's always one that like takes them and runs, and they had their own little like territories and stuff. And
then one of them ends up with one of the other's claws in their claw. And
yeah, probably. I don't remember that happening, but I'm sure
someone always lose an arm.
I used to keep a 10-gallon tank in my old bedroom in my parents' house, and I would buy like 10 or 15 of them from PetSmart or Petco or whatever, and I would randomly feed them to Dumerals and mangrove monitors, and that was just the coolest thing ever to watch. It was like watch this lizard dive into black water and pluck out these crustaceans and crush them with their mouth. Amazing.
Like a freaking hawk.
Like a hawk, like a bird.
You keep those animals outside?
Me?
Yeah.
No, it was indoors. I had I basically had oak tree limbs that I shaved down and soaked in water and left them in the water in the tank, and there was like an elevated platform, and they were in 50-gallon tanks on top of each other. Yeah. Put some neon tetras in there. I know how much Ryan Cox loves neon tetras or loves tetras in general. He's on a fish kick right now. It's awesome.
Nerds.
Yeah, man, I'm trying not to, because I've been talking to him about fish, and I've wanted fish for quite a while. I just got geckos. A lot of things are happening.
Yeah.
It's branching out.
I think I'm I mean, I'm officially one person in a 3-bedroom house, and now I have like 20 animals in my bedroom. That's how low I am on space.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, I guess. Or
So wait,
sad, depending
how
on
how many of those animals are in displays, like actual displays?
I just put the olive python in the bedroom in an 8-foot enclosure.
Nice.
So that's like the only one that's on a legit display in which that and then I have an Amazon here that's on display. I have 2 Slawinski's corn snakes that are in 3-foot enclosures. And then I have an emery rat snake that's in a 3-foot enclosure. Otherwise, everything else is in tubs.
Okay. I was gonna say, man, you gotta like smush some stuff to the side so that you can have some bomb ass displays in like the guest bedroom and stuff.
Yeah, though that's the shipping room. So that has it has a rack with carpet pythons and pine snakes, and then most of it's just shipping materials. But
real cool.
But dude, I've been loving having the olive python right next to my bed and just watching her.
That's the best way to observe it, man.
And like I have a deep heat projector, and which is basically like, I didn't know that this existed, but Arcadia makes a deep heat projector in which it gives off infrared A and B, but it doesn't give off visible light.
Really?
And yeah, so it's just like, I don't know. It makes me feel good. For some reason, I am super, super weird about having lights out in the house. I'm like, I don't know, like someone's dad or some shit. It's like, turn those fucking lights off. It makes me go crazy. So yeah, it makes me feel good. It's like I forget that my electric bill is going up. It doesn't remind me.
How do you know it's on? Do you have night vision?
It's on.
Okay.
You just walk around the house with night vision goggles on at night.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know if like
Military grade.
I don't know if there was like a lens they give you to like look through to see if it's on or something, or like a pilot light. I don't know.
3D glasses.
3D glasses, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Just wave your hand under it. It's on. But
that's still cool, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and like
are you still doing day-night cycle or no?
No, so that's what I haven't figured out. Maybe I should probably do that. I don't know exactly how I would make that work. But what is it like? There's a Herpstat or something where you can set times.
You just get an old school wall timer, the dial.
But it's, do I want it to go totally off and go? Maybe I do.
If you're using it for ultraviolet, radiation, there's going to be very, very little to none of that at night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I still need heat. Should I swap out, a different heat source? But I don't know. It's not perfect, man. I'm trying to see what works.
It's still badass though. You got a friggin' giant olive in your bedroom. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I didn't know that she was 8 feet until she stretched out in the enclosure. I was like,
cool.
Speaking of liasis.
Or liasis, depending.
Liasis. Jesus.
Liasis.
Phil got him some liasis.
I did. I was feeling fussy. But yeah, I finally nabbed a female fuscus.
Nice.
And,
not just any fuscus.
Queensland.
Queensland
locality fuscus. And so now I have a pair. And it is to my knowledge that they are clutch mates, but I've come to terms with that because I can't find Queenslands anywhere else. So
I was going to say there's probably comes from a very small group of animals to begin with, so I'm sure it kind of doesn't matter.
Already right into oblivion. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, right. Well, they're both champion specimens in my opinion. The iridescence is crazy, and like
it is
orange belly, and just the heads they're perfectly proportionate. There's no like eye bulging or anything. I mean, let's face it, they are kind of a derpy snake, but I'm like really pleased and really happy that I finally got my hands on them, and they're good quality animals. So
Am I accurate in saying that they seem darker than other waters?
Yeah, most definitely.
Like I feel like that one was a lot darker compared to the one Jake used to have.
Yeah, and I don't know if Jake had a New Guinea or what, but I know Nipper showed me some pictures of his fog dams and stuff, and mine are definitely darker than those.
It also is so dependent on the light in which they're in for so many different reasons. So yeah, maybe if you had those animals next to each other, they may look different. Or, but yeah, I looked at Eric's Queensland actually literally just today, and looks like mine, maybe not, but I've seen the New Guinea animals look a little bit different. But yeah, I was just told Australian, which I don't know whether I can.
On the olive, or you have waters too?
Yeah, I have a fuscus.
Oh, sweet.
Yep. I have
a female.
A female that's like 4 or so.
Oh, nice. How big is she?
She's probably about 6 feet.
Nice. Let me ask you, how much time does she actually spend in the water?
I don't know. Embarrassingly enough, I do not have a water bowl big enough for her to like actually submerge in. But she doesn't hug the water bowl. She doesn't try to be in the water really at all.
She's
but
in half out kind of thing.
No, I need to honestly. I want to put her in a 4-foot cage, and then I'll put my diamond jungle in a 4-foot cage, actually on top of that olive enclosure, and then I'll do that. I'll give her a big like feeding trough type of thing because that's what the olive has now, like one of those big rubber feeding troughs for some type of farm animal or like oil pan. But so yeah, I'll need to do that, and then I would be curious because obviously in the wild they're spending probably a good amount of time in the water. Water python.
I mean, I just love touching them. Like the texture and the smoothness of the scales, like it definitively is something that you'd expect to be aquatic.
It's just different, man. I mean, olives are kind of the same way. They just have those little scales, so it's like so many little scales and make them just feel so much smoother than so many of the other species. But yeah, and I mean, you've seen that picture of an olive eating like crocs off the side of a cliff or something like that. So I don't think they're a stranger to that similar environment either.
Yeah.
Really, Liasis, man, so cool.
I would love some solid.
Awesome. I'm happy.
They're kind of like I could understand as a colubrid person why I like them more than most other pythons. They kind of have that head is not 100% python looking.
The lack of a neck.
Yes.
Oh, the eyes, those white eyes. Those eyes are awesome.
How are yours temperament wise, or your fuscus?
They are super duper chill. Like super relaxed. I mean, the female I've only had for 2 days now, but the male, as long as he sees you coming, he's super chill. One time, he's in because they're babies still. He was in a paper towel roll. And, like I picked up the whole paper towel roll, and like I went to touch his butt to like scoot him out the front, and he reared back and almost got me. But the minute he saw that it was me and not a predator or something, he chilled out. That's the only time he's ever shown me aggression as of yet. So,
yeah, I think even though if yours are good as babies, then they're going to be super good as adults. Because mine was kind of a little bit testy as a baby, but now is perfectly tame. Cool. Until sometimes if you catch a shadow, at the right time and it surprises her, she'll try to bite it or something like that. But
they're just Australian rodeo.
Really big.
Nah. Did you see that? Nature for You said waters are not as aquatic as their name suggests.
Well, I've learned that because the male that I have, he's never sat. I have a big giant water dish that's almost half the enclosure, and he never goes in it. But what I do think is interesting is just general observations of, again, I've only had the female for like 48 hours, but she's always on the move so far, and the male, he literally just sits there and does nothing. And I know obviously she's in a new enclosure. She wants to sniff it out and kind of get an idea of what's what. But yeah, wow, look at that thing. That is fantastic.
Those rainbow boas are sweet, man.
See, now, do they say what locality that is?
It's Australian.
That's pretty
Damn, look at that.
cool. It's like a very deflated. You can tell it's kind of deflated to begin with, but that's one hell of a meal.
Yeah, right?
Freaking swinging for the fences on that one.
Right?
All those Australian species just seem to be.
They do not care.
Yes, they'll try their best.
Yeah, they'll kill it and they'll try. Whether they actually get it down is.
Dude, we need this jigsaw puzzle. Do you see that? This picture is a jigsaw puzzle.
Really? That's awesome.
That's the most random picture for a puzzle I've probably ever seen.
Right?
Yeah, I would say this is probably. I would say the Fuscus is probably one of my favorite snakes that I own. And I don't know if it's because like no one else gives a shit. Maybe it's one of those. But I mean, she's just. And they look super cool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I believe that's Scott in the comments. He was saying that, and Eric was actually just talking about this, that there's actually possibly two species of these guys in Australia, east and west, essentially. Even though they look identical, there has been some DNA research has been done in which they're two different species.
Was it done by actual scientists or was it done by Hoser?
This is done by actual scientists.
What I think is funny is I don't want to speak for Scott because obviously, he is the man, but he was explaining to me that like certain things, like his take on Harris and I is it is definitively a different animal and deserving of a different name. And who cares what Hosier says? And see, that's interesting.
The principle.
It's the principle. Yeah. That's interesting. They say that bitey because like the only experience I've had honestly with them are these babies. So like I was expecting them to be like really pissed off, de-Alberty, and they're not. They're super chill, which is kind of creepy to me.
I'm sure he's experiencing a lot more in the wild than we are by a much different animal.
Yeah.
So, and I think as though like if there was a normal individual who was handling even our water pythons that we say are tame, I'm sure if like your average snake keeper or layman went to go grab it, it would probably bite them. Like my female, if you treated it like a ball python or something, she'd bite you. But I can hook train her and stuff like that and get her out.
Sure. Dude, you gotta, when we're done with this, you gotta send me pictures of yours because I had no idea you even had one. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just posted my olive on Instagram like a few days ago, but I haven't posted anything about the water in a while. Yeah, join the club, Justin. Come on, man.
You are due, my friend.
Nah.
Are you out of pythons now or what?
No way, man.
Are you out of new pythons?
Well, no, I got that scrub from Phil. I got that tannin bar, so I'm in the scrub club.
Scrub club.
Yep.
I haven't played with them a whole lot.
Phil, did you do this whole fuck that shit type of idea? Drop it like it's hot?
What, on the scrub?
Yeah.
No, man, no. I love that animal. I got that animal specifically because I was like, you know what? This is a unique specimen, and I can't remember. Justin will remind me. It's either exanthic or axanthic. I can't remember. But the animal is phenomenal. It's super relaxed. It's a little defensive in the cage because it doesn't want you to yoink it out of its enclosure, but it eats like a champ. It poops like a champ. It's just a great animal. It was fun to play with and interact with. But I realized that my passions had maybe gone elsewhere. And as much as I wanted to get, big scrubs and cool scrubs, I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to do scrubs right now. I really want to focus on the waters. And I still want to do some gecko stuff too. So I was like, you know what? Let me give that thing to Justin. He'll appreciate it and go from there. Maybe he'll produce some in the future and I'll get babies from him. Who knows?
If I can hunt down a female.
Yeah.
They're cool. It's cool. This is my first scrub. I mean, other than playing with Jake's, I really haven't haven't done much with them. And I mean, if it were like a bar neck or something, I probably wouldn't have done it. But because it's tandem bars, which are the smallest of them all, I believe, it's like, why not? It's not going to take up a ton of space, which I'm already pretty tight on to begin with. So,
yeah. Does Jake have tandem bars?
no, he just has one Southern. He's been on the hunt for a female forever, but I don't know that he's ever actually going to get one.
He's rather upset that Justin has it, from what I gather.
He'll be all right.
He'll be all right.
Well, you picked up an animal for him, didn't you?
I picked up a pair of those white oak gray rats.
Nice.
He got a pair of those from Chris Montross, yeah. So I picked those up for him while I was down there. Those are pretty nice. I didn't really spend a whole lot of time checking those out either. I pretty much just got them and left them in the room and then went on about my weekend. But I did open them up and look at them for a few minutes one morning, and they are very pretty. I mean, one of them's already looking pretty pale. So those things are sweet.
Yeah, I think that's one of the more fun rat snakes. I mean, in comparison to working with blacks or working with westerns for sure. I found my grays at least are pretty chill, pretty straightforward to work with, and then just super cool looking.
Yeah, the really high white ones, man. That's hard to beat. Those are really smoking animals.
Oh, and especially because Chris is, our locality and,
Legit.
Legit.
But I got some stickers from him and a shirt, so that was, I guess, my payment for delivery.
Yeah, that's not bad. So where'd you end up getting those bear dye from?
So the Mexican pair came from Ron Allen, who I talk to on a pretty regular basis because, he produces a good bit of beards. I picked his brain on it a pretty good bit. And then the Texas pair came from one of his buddies. So what the deal was is I took what I thought was a pair of Desert Kings, because that's what I was told they were. I didn't double check them or anything. So backstory further, my dad had a bunch of kingsnakes. He got a promotion at work. He didn't have much time for them, so he had me just sell them all. So he had a pair of Desert Kings he got that were supposed to be a pair. So I took them down to Daytona to sell. Saturday, I had a couple people who were like, yeah, I'll check them, I'll come by tomorrow if they're still there. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, whatever. Then Sunday rolled around. They were still there. And so I messaged Ron on Facebook. I was like, hey, if you want these Desert Kings, I will straight up trade. If you want to trade me 2 male beards, 2 female beards, a pair, whatever you got that you feel like you don't want to go home with, I will trade you these for some beards. And so he was like, oh yeah. He's like, well, no, I don't have any normals, like Texas, but my buddy has some that he just hatched out, and they're at my table over here now. So, if you come over here and bring those Splendida, we'll make it happen. And I did. And of course, as I go to pick through the little tub of beards he had, he's like, yeah, those Desert Kings were 2 females. So I was like, he's like, it's fine. I don't care. I guess 2 females is probably better than 2 males. And yeah.
Here's the fuscus.
I didn't get any dart frogs, Reed. There really wasn't that many dart frogs at the show. I was surprised. There really wasn't. And if there was, it was like Luke's, it was Aratus, it was Azurius, it was, it was your kind of run-of-the-mill bread and butter.
I actually had someone on the lookout for an animal for me, but no dice. I thought in Florida we would have some luck, but
what are you looking for?
I've been pretty ready to pull the trigger on Cyclura carnuta, man.
I saw hybrid.
I want a blue line female. And the blue line is something that I've seen a couple different places, but I haven't seen any available as of the last year or so. But
yeah,
I'm really particular. I would love to have. What's that, Phil?
No, I was saying I feel like the people that do specifically blue line stuff, it's very much like you got to get in. You know what I mean? and like they trade themselves. Yeah.
And I've asked with no answers so far. So if anyone has any good leads on who breeds them, I have some people on the West Coast, but I figured that there was someone in Florida that had to have.
I'm sure there
those animals.
And you want
Illuminati.
I want a female, just one female.
Pure. You don't want like Lewisite blood or anything.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No. Because there's obviously I could get a Grand Cayman iguana, right? Lewisite hybrid with the nubula, and but yeah, I would much rather have a rhino. In which, I mean, obviously people know that they're predominantly gray, but I guess there's ones that have a little bit of a blue tint, and then they bred ones with a little bit of blue tint to blue tint.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Because honestly, the Grand Caymans, I would want a male. Just because the males are the ones with the red eyes and the most striking blue.
Of course.
But I don't really want to fuck with a male iguana, I'm going to be honest, of any species. I'm just going to go to be safe, and because I live in PA, I don't get the luxury of having it outside 12, months out of the year. So I need something that I can trust a little bit more and that I can really work with. Not that a male, not that I couldn't make a male work, but I don't really want to take a chance with hormones. And I've even heard that females can be a little bit weird once they get to reproduction age as well.
Well, Matt and Jamie had a really big rhino.
Look at that. We were just talking about
there it is. I'll say Matt and Jamie had a really big rhino, and that thing was all of 6 foot and diesel, and that thing would sit in your lap, and you could pet it like a dog, but it had massive human exposure and was completely desensitized to humans.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would do where, like I have the olive in my bedroom, I'd put the rhino in my bedroom, and really, I used to have Tenosaur and melanosterna, or the Honduran black-chested spiny tail iguana.
Yeah.
And they're very skittish, but I finally got it to the point where like it would come on my hand, and then I can feed it. I can hand feed it and do all that stuff and have interactions kind of on his accord. And that's something that I want to get back to, as far as having some like legitimate interactions with animals rather than snakes. It's kind of like, this thing's going to bite me. This thing's not going to. Yes, no. There are some interactions, but there's no true trust building happening, at least that you can feel like you can with an iguana.
True.
Or probably a monitor lizard.
Yeah.
It's like a parrot, man. You got to put a lot of time into them. Can't just
man.
Can't just leave them alone and expect them to be A-okay with you, intruding and being all up in their grill. And
but it would be good that you had it in your bedroom, because the thing's going to see you every single day, multiple times a day, and watch you and all of your habits, and you're going to watch it and all of its habits, and it's just going to build that bond better just because you have all that exposure to it.
Yeah, and I really thought that I wanted to get it during quarantine, because obviously I'm not doing anything. I'm here most of the time. But I don't know. I don't think that will happen because if I'm going to get one animal, it's going to be the exact animal that I want. So just going to wait on that blue line stuff and try to look more into that.
Yeah, man. It'll be so much worth it when you finally do get it. It'll be so much more special.
Yeah. And I only want to do it once, and they live forever. So so I only have to do it once. But
Ferentis are great pets, but we can't get them. We can't have them. And if we can,
don't rub it in, Scott.
A legit kidney. Thanks.
I've seen some of those Bell's Phase lace monitors at some shows here in the. I know the guy from Leaping Leeches has them at Hamburg and stuff. Dude, crazy.
There was somebody who had them at Daytona.
Was there?
There was one big, like 75-gallon air enclosure. Like the front was glass, but the sides were screen or something like that. And there was 3 laces in there. All of which were around 2 foot. There was 2 normals and 1 Bell's. And I think the Bell's was like 8,900 or 8,500.
Yeah, that's
must be nice, pal.
We have bears, rat snakes.
We do.
Yeah, I mean, we have every other species not on the continent. So that's, I mean, I think it's good being able to choose from animals. But Australia, if you're stuck on one continent, Australia is definitely the way to go.
Hands down.
So Justin, did you see with the bears and stuff like that, are you super particular as far as like, are you looking for parent pictures? Because if people don't know, like these things start off gray, they all pretty much start off the same, right?
Yeah. Like last year, I got a female from Travis, was at Weisler's table, and I asked for parent pictures, and they sent them to me, and they were really good looking. But at the same time, I mean, I have one pair in particular that I got they had no information on them. I had no pictures of the parents, and I mean, they're turning out pretty nice. So part of it, I guess, it's kind of like chondros in a sense where if you don't know, like it doesn't bother me if I don't have locality information or parent pictures, like, because it's just cool to watch them change. You don't know exactly what you're going to get. But I mean, yeah, when I can get pictures, I try to, but if the person's like, oh, I got these secondhand from somebody else, it's like no big deal,
So you have some that have that like metallic, silvery, black look at a certain point, and then you have the others that are, can get more red and purple and almost bluish. So what are the Mexican versus Texas? What are the color variations? Is there a typical coloration for each one of those?
Yeah, the Mexicans stand out because their head is gray. And then literally right at the base of the skull, it goes into that either like an orangish or a yellow. And so if you saw them next to each other, you'd definitely be able to tell what's what. Like, it's very obvious. I know there's some pictures on Google of some Mexicans. And I mean, there's not a ton of people in the States that are really doing much with them. The Mexican localities, at least, or I guess bears, period. But yeah, the Mexicans have gotten relatively tough to come across. And so, when Ron had some of this table, I was originally just going to get a female, but then he only had, I think, 1 or 2 males. And so I was like, I might as well just get another pair because I have a pair now. But, those I don't have concrete background information on that says they are Mexicans. They have the phenotype, which is hard to be misconstrued with anything else. But knowing, like, having a pair that I know for a fact, like, these are, legitimate Mexican bears, is nice. And because there's so few guys doing stuff with that particular group, I guess we're limited on our bloodline because, as you can't bring anything from Mexico, so we kind of have what we have. But yeah, I mean, there's a ton of different color variations. I actually was working on that today. I have a Google Drive folder where I basically went on iNaturalist, saved all those pictures and labeled them as, like, have a folder for each county, and then labeled the picture of if it came from like a certain canyon or a certain area. And I did that just so I can, have something to like go through and look at and see the variations and the different pockets. Because if you go on iNaturalist, you can definitely tell there's like certain sort of areas where there's a lot of bears, and there's so much variation. I mean, you have the Loma Altas, which are those crazy silver ones. You have some that are, like you were saying, that sort of reddish color. You got the Mexicans that are completely different. And there's Cox says they're a metallic eastern rat snake, which is not true.
Well, I had heard them. I don't know where it was, where I saw that someone called them the common name metallic rat snake.
Yeah,
something like that. So some people.
It's accurate.
It sounds
good. Yeah, right.
But they're not.
I mean, they look as metallic as a snake could look, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, man, pictures don't really do them justice. If you saw one in your hands, like, it straight up looks like they're made of metal, like they're like a brushed steel almost. And then I have a hypo, and you look at them and like their skin, like they look like they're made out of pearl. This just very soft white. That's another thing. Pictures just don't do them justice, but
that's cool.
They're really cool, yeah.
And it seems as though there is a lot of variation in these animals.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a lot like Alterna. Maybe the locality stuff just isn't as hardcore as it is with Alterna, which I still kind of don't understand why it is the way it is. Because, my dad hatched out some that
look like a bunch of other localities that I've seen. So maybe there's just something I'm missing with those. But yeah, I mean, it's the case. And that was something me and Ron were talking about at the show, was because I walked up, Sunday, I think, and I was like, how are these not all sold yet, especially the Mexican ones? And he's like, well, if I did, like what Lee Abbott does and had parents' pictures out on the table, I bet you they would have been gone yesterday, which is probably true. Because people see them and they're like, oh, that's just a little gray rat snake. They're completely unfamiliar with it, and they don't realize what they turn into. And seeing the change is it's very gradual, but it's pretty cool, because you just see that, the baby pattern just completely slowly dissolve and fade away. And Cox needs to...
I think it's also important, especially with like the gray bands and the bear dye. I think I was talking to Noah Fields, who obviously has done a lot of field herping in West Texas, and I was like, oh, it must be crazy to see that like metallic looking animal. And it's like, no, I mean, I know what the ideal specimen looks like in that area, but most of them look like shit compared to what you see in the hobby. So
yeah, I mean, that's selective breeding over the last, 20 or 30 years. But, I mean, there are some that look really nice. Like a lot of the Terrell County ones are always kind of my favorite. You do get some that are like that high silver that look like they've been in that selective breeding sort of circle. But, yeah, I mean, you see some of the Davis County ones and stuff like that, or the Jeff Davis County ones look pretty ugly, I guess you could say. But it's another one of those things where I feel like if you saw it in person, you'd probably have a better appreciation for it, because
Sure.
you do see the nuance in the color. And that's the big thing with Bairds is, from far away, they don't look like much, but you really take a close look at them and it's like, Jesus Christ, these things are awesome.
So you're also, I mean, you're going Bairds, you got to go Trans-Pecos rat snake, right?
I got a Subok. Over the weekend. So Dusty Rhodes wrote that book, The Complete Subok, and I bought that book literally just for like the 10 pages on Bairds. But I decided to read the whole thing, and as I was reading it, I was like, these are actually really freaking cool.
So that, man.
Yeah, and there wasn't there was one table that had some. They were all males. I went and got one Sunday because the price had dropped a little bit, and I mean, they're really cool. Everyone I've talked to says they're more like a python than they are a rat snake. They're very interesting, and part of the allure for me with the Subocs in particular is like there's still a ton we don't know about them. Like there's a lot of mystery surrounding them. You really don't see females for sale very often. From what I've heard, people that have been herping out there and come across them, road cruising and stuff, they're almost always males. They do this little like lip curl thing when they're kind of like they're not feisty at all. They're pretty reluctant to bite, but they do this like lip curl thing to kind of tell you that they don't want you around. They're just really interesting snakes, and just the whole like that whole mysterious aspect of like we don't know 100% what's going on with them and why they are the way they are is really interesting. And I mean I think that goes for the entire Bogratophis group. But I mean they are gorgeous snakes. Like handling mine, for the first time, I was like, holy crap, these things are awesome. And you get a lot of variation in those too. You get just across Texas and stuff in their range, like you do get a lot of different looks and phenotypes to them.
It's an Xanthic blonde.
Yeah, man, the silvers are my favorite. I had a choice between blondes and the normals, and I decided to get a normal because I don't know. I'll get my hands on more eventually, but they're tougher to breed. Like they're not as easy as your typical North American colubrids. Like they do require a little bit more finesse, which is another sort of appeal to me. Like I like the challenge of things.
Look at that.
There's so much, yeah,
sunset.
That's killer, dude.
The black lines in the neck. Oh.
So I have a feeling that that's going to be another species. If I can get my hands on more of, I probably will. And I don't know. It's so kind of funny to me that I've gone so hard into like the West Texas stuff. Like that was a bug I never really thought I would get. Being like a chondro guy and a Morelia guy, but West Texas is the one place I really want to go. Oh, and that's really interesting too. So there's a species of tick that literally only attaches itself to subocs.
What?
Really?
Yeah. There's a species of tick that is completely specific to subocs. It does not attach itself to anything else.
Wow.
Sometimes you'll find people that they're wild caught and they'll have some of those ticks on them, and it's like I think they're actually named like after subocs in some way or another. I forget I need to go back and read up on it, but that was really interesting. Like there's one tick that it only survives on subocs.
Dude, I think I'm about to buy a Trans-Pecos right now.
Like I said, females are tough to come across, and if the guy had females at the table, I would have definitely spent the extra money and got a female, because I know males are going to be really easy to find, but females are tough, and females come at a premium. So
I'm just thinking the enclosure that you can make for that with the like rock background with different cracks, like a cut. And
aren't we talking about someone who did like a zoo display? Phil, didn't we have someone on Steaks and Stogies that was doing a zoo display it was Kyle maybe that had a zoo display with subocs, and no, it was actually in the book. So there's someone that did display with I think Western Diamondbacks, a suboc, and maybe a Texas rat. I don't know. It's pretty cool looking, but it had like sort of like how Cody did with his twin spot cage. It had like shelves and rock, and they mimicked that sort of area they come from. So
awesome.
And yes, Cox, because I talked to Nipper. Nipper is a horrible influence.
Yeah, just seeing him kind of drape over the rocks like this, and it's super cool.
Yeah, it's interesting, man, because they find that like normally with other North American colubrids, you find a wild female or something, and an adult, and you decide to take it home and throw it into your breeding group. These, like, the females are notorious for doing really horribly when they're picked up, out of the road or off the wherever you find them. They don't seem to do well. They take a very long time to settle. Sounds like guys have little to no success with breeding them. They never seem to come around. Males, I think they're a little easier going, but still can be kind of troublesome. So the book really drives home, like, if you see wild caught subocs for sale and you haven't dealt with them before, don't bother, because you're going to have nothing but headaches. So it's just, like I said, for a colubrid, like a North American colubrid, that's just super interesting to me that, everything else is really a cakewalk, in the long run. But these guys, they just, like I said, they require a little more thought. It's a little more challenging. And, I don't know. I like that sort of challenge of being able to crack the code. It's like a Rubik's Cube, kind of. You spend enough time working on it and figuring it out, and when you get what you're aiming for, it's, I don't know, it's more rewarding in the end, I think.
Are you keeping them any different than, say, your other North American colubrids?
Yeah. So that's another thing Chris Montross brought up when we were talking about him on THP is. He keeps all his Nerodian stuff. You have to give them a lot of ventilation. Like, you don't want them to get stagnant at all. And subocs are very similar. Like, you want to give them a lot of ventilation. You want to give them. You don't want to feed them huge meals. You want to feed them smaller stuff. And I think that kind of falls in line with all the breeding and stuff too. Like, they're not. It's not as easy as corn snakes or bears, where it's like just throw them together and you'll get eggs. It's like these, actually, you have to really sort of plan and time it and do it all right to get what you want out of them. But mine's in quarantine right now. I did drill some extra holes in the tub to get more airflow in there, but once he's out, I definitely want to get him something with a lot of ventilation in it. And I'm trying to figure kind of how I'll do that, because if he's in a rack, with the heat and stuff, I don't want the heat to escape. So I'll likely just put a lot of ventilation on the front half and leave the back, because it's on back heat. Leave the back more closed so it retains that a little better. They're cool snakes.
Yeah, I think I'm on the team. I think I'm doing it.
I don't know what it is about Texas, man. Like, when the first time I was on NPR, they were like, "Where do you want to herp? Anywhere in the world?" And I'm like, "West Texas." And they were like, everyone gets so disappointed with that answer. I'm like, you don't have to travel across the world. Like there's a ton of cool species of rattlesnake and tarantula and scorpion and rat snake and the coral snakes, and that's a cool spot, man. That's top of my list.
It's definitely not the easiest terrain or the easiest place to find snakes either, which I think is, even more interesting because it is very barren.
Well, I'm in one of the Alterna groups, and I guess I don't know who does it. I don't know if it's like a group of people that just like to mess with people who are road cruising, or if it's like one individual, but they go and they paint rubber snakes like Alterna and put them in the rock faces and stuff to trick these guys into stopping their car, getting out and going looking just to find a rubber snake. Because they post pictures about it all the time. They're like, I got had by this one. And it's funny because the way they paint them, they look spot on. Like if I was driving by and saw that, I'd be like, this is totally an Alterna sitting there on that is scrap.
Well, I know U.S. Fish and Wildlife has been known to do that in certain federal properties in South Florida. They'll take a rubber snake on a piece of fishing line and they'll leave in the road and wait for people to stop and field collect. And the minute you touch the rubber snake, the blue lights come on and they all come out of nowhere. It's almost like the guys trying to catch poachers with the fake deer. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just reminds me of that commercial with the guy with the fishing pole with the dollar on the end of it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotta be quicker than that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and from what I understand too, like to collect, and this is talking to Chris at Badlands, the only thing you need in Texas is like a hunting permit, more or less, that I guess is specific to collecting reptiles, and as long as you have that, you're good to go. Given the county, huh?
And your reflective vest.
Yeah, have that too.
Yeah, but you even here in PA, for some reason, it is illegal to keep a timber rattlesnake and a copperhead, but you can get a permit to take one timber rattlesnake or copperhead and do whatever you want with it, including keeping. Which doesn't make much sense to me.
Is there anything that our government does that makes any sense on any level?
Yep.
It doesn't have to make sense. You just have to follow the rules. Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think Georgia's in desperate need for an updating on their laws. From what I heard, what they have going on now is like archaic. Like no one's even thought about changing it for decades. They just man. Yeah, they just put it in place and they're like, cool, whatever, that'll work. We'll talk about it in 2035.
I just want some red pygmies. Athens, baby. Athens, Georgia.
It's only like a 4-hour drive for me, buddy.
Yeah, well.
Wait, what is there in Athens?
Red pygmy rattlesnakes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, red like red.
Blood red.
Just in that locale specifically.
Yeah, there's a couple areas in like the Georgia, South Carolina border where they occur, where they'll have like a redder hue or they're more pink colored. But like that whole Athens area expanding northeast into South Carolina, that's where the reds are.
There's some ones in North Carolina too.
Oh, is there? Okay.
But I think those are kind of more of a deeper red, like the ones you're thinking of are like the salmonish, like
yeah, that's I'm looking for
sexy bubblegum canebrake kind of thing.
Yeah. Sexy bubblegum, South Carolina bubblegum canebrake.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the Georgia Eastern Kings.
Hey.
But those are like black and yellow. So Eastern Kings are typically like black and kind of a tannish and or whitish coloration. The ones in Georgia just happen to be black and yellow, which is super cool, but super, super rare in the hobby. It seems as though Georgia across the board is very anti-keeping native species, right?
Yeah, like you can keep any exotic venom. I think you can actually keep any native venomous you want. And like exotic venomous, but you keep like a corn snake and you're breaking the law.
Yeah.
Whatever.
One king snake that I regret having not done more with, and now I cannot find them for the life of me, is the Outer Banks locality.
Those are cool.
Dude, that is the subspecies in Outer Banks, the chain kings. The Stickiceps, man, or however you would say it, those are just the coolest chain kings, man. The coolest.
Yeah, and it's funny you're talking about chain kings because yesterday was my day off still. Like I came home from Daytona and had a day off, which was nice. And my uncle sent me a picture. He said, "Hey, like we found this in our house. What is it?" And it was literally like, I don't know, this thing can't be more than a month old, like at most. It's a little baby Eastern King, not a whole lot bigger than a quarter. And he brought it to me yesterday, and so I'm gonna hold on to that for a little while.
Nice.
It's a little female. I like Eastern Kings, but I don't like the whole Brooks and Eastern and Cow King. They're too untrustworthy. I hate how sneaky they are. Like they're so freaking food driven constantly that I feel like anytime I'm touching one, it's gonna bite me at any moment. And I think that's because as a kid I had a Brooks King that was that way. Like you'd be holding it, it'd be fine, and then you'd look down, it would be like halfway to your knuckle, like eating it.
It's kind of like when you work with pythons, that once you break that feeding response, you break the feeding response. King snakes, always liable to make a mistake at any point.
Nope.
Yeah. So, but you can see how those are like, they're all Lamprepeltis guttala, or the common king snake. And you can see how even like those Outer Bank kings kind of start to look like even Holbrooki, even though they're really in different places. And yeah, it's super, super cool how similar and how different all those animals are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's neat to see all the variation in Eastern Kings too, just from Florida up to Chesapeake. Chesapeake, Virginia has some really nice ones, really nice wide white bands. White bands.
White.
But yeah, those things can be some monsters.
They're the devil.
I was about to say, didn't you were trying to put that voodoo on me a year or two ago. I think you were trying to get me to buy your dad's, and I was like,
Brooks. Yeah, I was like,
I think I know better than that.
To this day, I have zero trust in Brooks Kings. Like they're cool snakes, but I freaking hate them. Like we had that one when I was a kid, and it was like it scarred me for life. I want nothing to do with Brooks Kings.
I've never found one in the wild, and it's a 40-minute drive from me. And I went like 6 times in the past like 3 months because like COVID, I'm doing nothing, and I got nothing.
Cox. I didn't try and put it on everybody. I shopped it around.
Yes, him too.
Letting everyone know there's a Brooks King for sale. I don't know anything about what morph it is or anything like that. I just know it's an ass.
Yes, as in tradition, as in king snake tradition. Yeah. I have like 4 Brooks Kings or so, but my female, I produced them last year, and my female just passed away after having a clutch randomly.
That sucks.
Yeah, so it's been I'm in that stage where it's like, should I keep on doing this? Should I grow up the females? Should I just wash my hands of this whole situation? I do love, some of the Brooks Kings that I have, some of the babies that have grown up. So
I tried to help you out and add to your group.
I'm pretty well good.
But if they were corn snakes, you'd want them.
Not right now, man. Not right now.
How many corns you got right now?
Like 200 or so.
Jesus.
That's a lot of snakes.
Yeah. But I got to the point where I have someone help me now, so I don't have to clean all the babies all the time, which is honestly, man, it's been really, really nice.
You want to buy some of my locality ones when I produce them?
Potentially, yeah. Depends.
See, I made a mistake of I have a friend out of state who wanted to do some horse trading for native Florida stuff. And one of his things was he wanted Everglades rats, specifically with a pink tongue. I'm to assume I'm not a rat snake guy, but I'm to assume that's some kind of genetic thing or whatever. And I went out and I went out and I went out and I got one. And I was like, finally, I got one in pink tongue. Awesome. So I got that thing set up in a rack and eating like a champ, pooping like a champ. Haven't found a single one yet. But now I'm kind of like growing attached to the thing. And like, I want to find more of them but I'm afraid that if I find more of them, I'm just going to want to keep them. Because like at this point, I'm not going to give him one snake in trade. Like that's dumb. I want to give him like 10, but I kind of want to keep 10 for myself. Is that weird? Am I turning into you guys?
Dude, I have one Everglades rats, and I love this thing. It's really
The
cool.
yellows
I had one for a while. They're pretty.
What's that?
I had one for a while. They're pretty.
Joe, are yours pink or red, or are they yellow?
Orange.
Orange. Okay. That's what I'm afraid, man. I'm afraid that this thing is because they're all born looking the same, and I'm afraid this one's going to turn yellow, which is still cool. I still love the animal, but like I was really hoping it would just bubble gum out, and it's not. I mean, it's still only maybe 26 inches, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. They changed so much, and then I think I forget who I was probably talking about this just the other week about maybe I was talking to Cox about it, but not only do they change color, like they completely change pattern, which I always thought was fucking weird.
Yeah,
The yellow rats do the same thing too. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like what snake goes from having like your normal rat snake pattern to having a stripe? Like what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
It's weird seeing them when they're in that sort of awkward, like in between stage where they still have the saddles, but the lines are like totally there.
Mm.
Yep, that's about where mine is right now. We're looking at about a year and a half.
Beards do the same, Cox.
I don't know. I also think it's interesting how of all the rat snakes, all the yellows and Everglades that I've found over the years, I've never found an in between. I've either found a baby that was still had baby colors, or I found like a full grown like 5-footer that was completely changed. See, that's adorable, man. Super cute.
Yeah, it's a lot more orange now.
Nice.
I haven't taken a picture of it in a while.
You ever keep any yellow rats, Joe?
No, but it's the same thing, right?
I don't know. Like me and Jake have talked about for the last like year and a half about getting our hands on some yellows just for fun.
A great yellow individual is a good-looking snake.
They're cool.
I mean, the thing is, like most people are going for the Everglades. They just want the most extreme of anything. But I mean, a good yellow rat snake.
And we've talked about that, like how, like if someone put in even just like 5 years, if they had an adult pair, just putting in 5 years and seeing like how nice can you bring out that phenotype and really, I feel like some nice captive bred yellows would. I feel like those would take off. I mean, they get a decent size too. Like we've had some really impressive ones down here. It's like that'd be not far off from owning a freaking python, small one at least.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Is the python genes from something else?
So technically, if you put it with a licorice rat, it's still an eastern rat snake.
I'm so therefore, the white side thing and what it's all about.
So therefore, it's not a different species. It's a different looking animal, but it's not a different species. So take that for whatever that's worth.
Should call them white walls.
But I guess the issue is that you end up going yellow in where you go breeding the best individual, and then you get kind of an Everglades. I think they go orange instead of like, you want them to go like school yellow.
Yeah. Like Kofiau yellow.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it would be cool if I ever stumbled across like a gravid female to hold on to her until she drops and then just incubate the eggs and play around with whatever comes out.
And if you look at a good greenish rat snake, I think they're pretty fucking cool too.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's Centicolus.
Don't look at the Western green. Yeah, kind of an ugly snake, but you can see the beauty in that.
Yeah, and I mean we get a lot of yellows that kind of look like that.
Yeah, so I'm sure. I don't know. Is it where you are? Is that still in that intergrade zone where you get greenish? Technically, I mean it's what is greenish?
So. Let me see.
Greenish is the where basically the yellows and the grays meet. Is that what it is?
Because we only have yellows down here, as far as I know. We don't get any of the. We don't get blacks. We don't get. Let me look.
Because it looks like one that I'm looking at right now is from Dorchester County, South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm looking at a map and it says we just have the yellows. But I mean, where that intergrade zone is, that's probably about where Dorchester is too. So that would make sense.
Well, here, you guys tell me if this is an Everglades or not, because I was pretty sure, because of the reduced pattern and everything, I was pretty sure that this little booger was an Everglades and not a yellow.
Yeah, it looks like a.
It's gonna go pretty orange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult because it's obviously in my bathroom, but I don't know. It just looked. It didn't have that grayish color that you'd expect from a yellow rat. Does that make sense?
Well, I think it's the more southern you go in Florida, the more red you're gonna get.
Well, see, I don't know about that because I've been in the tip of Florida and found bright yellow adults. So I don't know.
The redder the snake, the redder the necks.
Meh, meh.
Yeah, I know. I wish I knew more about the eastern rat snakes and how all that works.
Yeah. I also have this guy has been. I probably shouldn't say this on the air because someone might steal it from me. But I've been highly contemplating purchasing this guy from Underground's retail store. Somebody dropped this guy off because they're like, I don't want this anymore. I found it in such and such a place. And it is definitely going to be bright red.
Boy, what?
And I need to buy it, but I was hesitant because it had that black tongue. It didn't have the pink tongue that my buddy wanted. But that thing's gonna be red.
Yeah.
I probably will buy it this week.
Yeah, you're about to have a bunch of rat snakes, aren't you?
Yeah, right. Great. Oh. I don't know. I think it's also cool to diversify. You know what I mean?
I have found out in which probably the last few months is that I can never focus on one species. It's just never going to happen. That's cute. And I love when people talk about that. No, it's actually what keeps me excited about this is always expanding. And then I see the guys who do it long term. That's not a business, or the guys who just do it for fun, or the people who I consider real reptile guys in quotes, whatever that means.
Right.
They all bounce around.
Yeah.
For the most part. And it's I need to accept that I'm going to bounce a little.
Yeah. No, I've pretty much come to terms with it too. I love chondros. I love the Bairds. There have been times where I'm I'm just going to focus on chondros. I'm going to sell everything that isn't a chondro. But I know within probably 2 months, other stuff would start trickling in without a doubt.
Yeah.
It's not possible to do it. I gotta have a little bit of everything.
Well, it's I have a friend who owes me a couple baby children's pythons, and he's basically waiting to get them established, and he was going to give them to me. And I'm kind of procrastinating it because I know I'm going to like them. And I'm great. Now I got to deal with this too.
Yeah, and I think at least we're at the point where we have probably enough animals where squeezing one in probably doesn't really make a big difference.
True.
Fun fact,
again,
I don't know about you, but I don't have 200 corn snakes.
You have a lot of geckos, man.
I do. I
have venomous animals. I mean,
yeah. Oh God. And
he has tempted me with the knobtails.
Dude, you know who hit me up about knobtails was Nipper. Nipper's man, I'm really thinking about getting into them. And then I don't know if he was trying to test me or what, but he sent me some pictures of Platysaurus. And I didn't know if he knew this or not, but Marcus and I used to be really, really into Platysaurus. And I had 4 or 5 different species. And I just started sending him pictures, and he was like, fuck, I chose the wrong person to send this to. This is horrible. Now I have to buy them. So.
See, Ron says the same. Monoculture is boring like Noah's Ark around his place.
It's true.
I feel like every single
Ron's
time,
got
or when I was first getting into reptiles, I listened to like reptile radio, or I listened to basically the people who were like, "Hey man, you gotta focus on one thing and make it your thing."
Yeah.
I guess that probably works if you're doing this as a business, but if you're trying to have fun, definitely not the way to do it.
Yeah.
I like to balance it out. Like you have sort of the challenging species like chondros and hopefully the Jansenii, and then, you know, next year or 2 years probably. But like it's nice to balance that out with something that doesn't require a ton of worry and like double checking everything and constantly looking to see if everything's okay. You know, like the bears and stuff. It's like super easy to do. You know, and then you have, like I said, the chondros and stuff, which are a little more nuanced, a little more detail oriented.
Yeah, I think I'm really enjoying the New Caledonian stuff because it is very hands off, and what is hands on is very different than the snakes. The feeding and everything and the spraying and all that stuff, very different. The interactions very different. And then
I got, you know, like I have the bears, I have the locality corn thing, and then I have you know, the western hogs, which I don't know when I'll even breed those, but it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, they're neat and I want to produce some. It's not anything I'm going to go super hard on. I guess the bears are kind of the exception, but it's just nice to have a project where it's like, this is just going to be enjoyable. My blood pressure isn't going to go up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have headaches. Like, it's just going to be smooth sailing.
Well,
and
that's
what happens and it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out.
It comes down to, we all have species that we want to quote unquote work with, but then we also have species that we just think are cool. We just want to keep it. You know? Yeah. That's it.
Like, I don't see those locality corns I produce being anything life-changing, but to me, it's just really cool to have corns that are from right here in my own little neck of the woods, you know?
Yeah, I think we all have our own little like projects that we are just into for our own reasons.
And dude, I'm not knocking it. I'm not trash talking. I swear to God. But if Joe didn't actually like isopods, he probably wouldn't do it as hardcore as he has. Right?
I mean, there's nothing that I would do if I didn't like it, because
that's when
physically unable to do that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I still have a very hard time sort of understanding the overall fascination with that whole realm. Like, I have my cultures, but it's 100% utilitarian, like using them for vivariums. I don't, like, obviously I keep them alive because I want to have a constant supply of them, but it's not like, man, these are cool, I gotta have one of every kind, I gotta have rubber duckies, I gotta have cows, you know. It's
because they're easy and they're adorable. Like, that's it.
Yeah, and like if you really have the time to sit down and watch them and feed them and give them, like, you know, fish flakes that they basically fight over, and
I want to try some of the iso chow you got now.
Yeah, do it up, man.
Dude, the freaking springtail food, I'm still amazed at how much that just makes my freaking cultures explode.
Well, that's the easy stuff, man.
They lose their minds over it.
There was that vendor at Daytona, going back to Daytona, there was a vendor at Daytona that just had bugs. And not only did he have bugs, but he had pre-made cultures, pre-made habitats, for lack of a better word. But he also sold, like, action figures, I guess you'd call them.
Like the little rubber, like the
yeah.
Yeah.
They were Isopod, like, action figures, like Isopod toys for kids that they came rolled up in a ball, and when you, like, cut the wrapper, it would open up on itself to be the roly-poly, you know? And they had representations of the actual species, which I thought was super cute.
Yeah, I know. Especially, I think with the guys who are getting real good at doing isopods at shows, they all have like macro pictures of each species above the cultures, because or else, you know, you have people opening the lids of them all the time, or you can't really get a great look at it. So, yeah, I mean, some guys are really doing great with that kind of stuff, and if I ever go to a reptile show again, I'll have to I'll have to do that all up. I haven't actually, because it's been 6 months. So since in the last 6 months, I sell different things now. I did only one show where I did isopods, and I did it at like a pretty mediocre level. And then I have geckos now too. So it's like kind of wish I could do a show with all the shit that I do now in comparison to going to a show and selling like 3 corn snakes and going home.
Oh, I didn't actually see it at the show, but Danielle, my friend who lives here in Beaufort, that went down there, they had a picture. Someone was selling a candy cane corn, which I haven't seen a regular like candy cane since I was a kid. I mean, not that I've been looking for them, but I just remember seeing it. Like, holy crap, that was my favorite like corn morph as a kid. Or those candy canes, are just stark white with the red saddles. Just those are awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of can't get much better than that. But yeah, that's something that I haven't seen a lot of people produce lately.
Back in the day, they were like the thing.
I can imagine line breeding an animal for 20 years probably isn't the best thing to happen. Judging just by someone who reproduces, corn snakes with multiple recessive mutations in them, I can tell you that it degrades over time.
I think there was more corns at Daytona than there were balls.
Well, I think it's a location thing, but that's kind of crazy because I've never even seen anything close to how many balls there are at any show.
I mean, it was the same case last year. I was amazed at how many corns there were. This year, same thing, like whole tables of nothing but corns.
But you have those like Florida guys who literally produce like 20,000 corn snakes. You have legit wholesalers down there.
True. I don't know, but it was still, there was a good, like, I don't want to say 10-year gap where it was nothing but ball pythons and the occasional hognose. And now we're seeing a more.
I think things are. People are starting to spread out, man. I think people are kind of getting tired of the rat race, and they're figuring out that there's other stuff out there.
Sure.
And that was always my thing with ball pythons. I mean, they're cool and all, but that's just like there's so many species in the hobby. Like we were saying, how can people just focus on one and be? Yeah. People have whole rooms of nothing but ball pythons. It's like you would think after a while you'd be like, I need something a little more exciting.
Well, I also think it comes down to people realizing that there isn't the same people breeding the same stuff as there used to be, especially with the colubrids. Mm-hmm. So, like I mentioned, Daytona 2004, 2006, whatever, there was a lot of colubrids. It was the tapering off of the 90s corn snake boom, the colubrid morph boom. But now you're seeing, well, nobody is breeding cow kings like they used to. Nobody's breeding Brooks kings like they used to. And you look at someone like Mark and Campbell that would produce thousands of Lampropeltis. And I remember wholesaling black and white cow kings. They were $5 each. You'd sell them for $40. Well, now they're $125 or $150 or $200, depending on the patterning, because someone took the time to focus on that one species or that one line, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I think it's funny because obviously all this work happened in like the 90s, right? And then all of a sudden it like kind of goes underground. No one gives a shit. And then all of a sudden it's popular again. And like these products are even better. Like, some of them have been completely lost.
Right.
Unless it's like Baird's rat snakes and no one cared to begin with.
I saw the one guy, I can't remember his name. He had Mollendorfi.
Yeah.
I was this close. Close.
Yeah, he was very close. He's like, dude, should I do it?
Yeah, dude,
they're awesome.
It's like 3 snakes in one. It's not even real.
Yeah. It's like a retic had a love child with a bear eye.
And it's like long red head, green body. What the hell is going on?
Cold weather, Montane. Awesome.
We did learn. Go ahead.
I was saying my late mentor used to keep them in his library because he kept the library like 60 degrees because he didn't want the books to get. I mean, we're talking about like a real legit library. He had like a sliding ladder and everything. And he used to keep it like 60, 61 degrees because he didn't want the books to get messed up from humidity. And he kept the Mollendorfi in there. Like, that's awesome.
We learned over the weekend that it takes 3 people to change a tire on a car. And it takes them about 4 hours to do it.
It was 2.5 hours, all right? Everything was against us, okay?
Where were you driving?
So we were hanging out in the hotel room before festivities started to get kicked off. And and me, Casey, and Billy are leaning on the balcony as I'm smoking a cigarette. And Billy's basically just venting his frustrations to his friends. He's like, oh, yeah, we got here and we unloaded. I went out to the truck to go see something. I got a flat tire. And I said, well, hey, I have real tools in my Subaru. Like I have a real tire iron. I have an air compressor. I got patch kits. I said, listen, why don't we, before we go get drunk, I said, why don't we go get all that stuff out of, because the car was in valet. We'll get all that stuff out of valet. We'll walk it down to the convention center because the gates are closed and you can't drive in after dark. And like the vendor parking lot. And we'll throw it on your truck. And then in the morning, you can change your tire and, whatever. He was going to have his girlfriend drive the truck to go get the correct tire fixed and blah, blah, blah. So me and Casey and Billy, meanwhile, Casey's a little, if you catch my drift. And we walk all the way down there. We're sweating bullets because it's, 100% humidity at 9 o'clock at night. And we walk all the way down there. And both Casey and I kind of have the attitude like, we're already here. Let's just do it. Let's just get it done. That way Billy won't have to deal with it in the morning. We're still hanging out with our friends, fuck it. So we realized that Billy's jack, that came with the truck is a scissor jack.
Horrible.
He really needs a bottle. He needs a bottle jack. So we're like, all right, let's open the thing with our hands and see if it's tall enough, blah, blah, blah. Not realizing that the frame on this particular type of Nissan truck is sloped. So Billy jacks it up and it slips out. And we're like, okay, we forgot to put the e-brake on. Let's put the e-brake on. So he puts the e-brake on. Do it again. Wham! It slips out again. So it's like, all right. I said, I'm going to walk all the way back to my car. I'm going to get my car because we realized the gate was actually open. I'll get my car. I'll drive it back. I have 2x4s in my trunk. We'll put the thing on 2x4s just to get it a little higher. Because, the thing's on concrete. It's on asphalt. It's not parking lot. So we do that. And then while we realized that works, we also made a conscious decision to move it to the middle of the vehicle where there was no slope in the frame. So that way it won't kick out from underneath us, God forbid. So we move the jack, and then we start to take down the winch that has the tire underneath the flatbed. Well, the winch is rusted, and the chain's rusted, and we're knocking on it and shit. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with, pickup truck, the tire winch underneath the bed. There's that hole in the back of the rear bumper where you slide the rod in. That's like a key to unwind it to lower the tire down. Well, we put it in there, and I guess Billy had never changed the tire on this truck before. He only had the truck a couple of years. And he thinks it's in, and it's not. And the key jacks itself into the plastic housing that's like a guide to like show you where to go, and he winds up breaking it and ripping the plastic guide out. So now Casey, because he's the skinny guy, he goes underneath the car and starts manhandling this housing to get it out. Finally we get it out. Finally we lower the tire. As we're jacking it up and unscrewing the lug nuts and whatnot, the minute Casey pulls the tire off, the jack stand kicks out again. And the whole thing smashes on the ground and almost, cuts off Casey's feet. So we're like, all right, let's do it again. And we jack it up again. I turn on the air compressor. We test the tire pressure. Everything's hunky-dory. It all ended well. But by this time, it's 11 o'clock at night, and we all have our phones blowing up. Where are you guys? You're missing the party, blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, all of us are sober and sweating going, we don't want to fucking go, And I got to hear it from the rest of the party, including Justin.
I was asleep.
You were asleep.
I went to bed early that night. I stayed at P and Cody's Thursday, and so I was up pretty late there. And so I was like, okay, Friday night, no one's really going to be doing a whole lot. I'm going to go to bed early because Saturday night, that's when, everyone's there. So Chris sent us some cigars that I was going to smoke with Phil. And so I lit it up thinking Phil was like somewhere nearby, like in the hotel. And then I'm like pretty much done with that cigar. And I'm like, well, I guess Phil's not coming. I got stood up at the fountain, the hotel, tear in my beer.
Stood up. Listen, man, I was helping our boy out, Our boy needed some help.
This is
there it is. Look, I would have done it for you. I would have did it for Joe. I would have done it for any of you guys. Casey included, man.
Casey had a good night.
Casey had a great night. Casey's adorable because Casey has like one glass of liquor, gets schnockered, and he's hilarious. I mean, he's always funny, but he's hilarious for like 20, 30 minutes. Then he immediately sobers up. Time for another glass of liquor.
Wait, what Casey is this?
Casey Cannon.
Okay. Because I don't think I saw him drink last Carpet Fest. I don't know why. Or maybe he was just under the radar.
Maybe. But it was definitely funny. It was very funny. Casey, at one point, I guess I had like a tumbler full of gin or half full of gin, and I went to like cheers Casey, and I guess Casey didn't have a drink in his hand. So he just punches my cup, and the cup is flying in the air. And of course, it hits the ground and goes doing, 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 doing. And everyone's like, oh my God, what the hell happened? So it was a good time. Good time.
So is Daytona more of like a personal like house party type of scene in comparison to like Tiffany's more of like, you know, bananas, you go to the bar type of deal?
Oh no, it's personal house party.
Everyone's got their own liquor.
Yeah.
So that seems like more of my scene. I should definitely go to Daytona.
Absolutely. You know, they have a really nice patio area that's got all the tables and chairs and umbrellas and stuff. And like, we all just sit around and smoke cigars and have drinks and change tires, you know.
You can't smoke at, apparently.
Dude, I don't even want to get started on that story. I felt bad. But I think you got hosed by a Karen.
So pissed.
You did.
Wait, what?
So
got in trouble?
Yes, kind of. I still don't even know exactly what happened. I was just there. Look, Casey.
Isn't he supposed to be on a podcast?
So I'll sit on the back patio because last year we smoked cigars and there was no problem. And so Friday night, because you were changing tire, it was like just before 9, I think. And so I was sitting on the patio when I was about halfway done with the cigar, and some guy comes out, and I'm pretty sure he had a walkie-talkie. He had a polo on, his shirt was tucked in. He looked like he was an employee of the hotel. And he goes, "Sir, can you read that sign?" And I didn't even notice the sign earlier. I had smoked 3 cigars on the patio.
Like, no, I can't
that day. And there's a sign that says no smoking, but they have it so that when you walk out, you don't even see it because it's like on like that wall's like on a slight angle facing that way. And so I didn't even see it. And I told him, I was like, he's like, you know, extinguish your cigar, please. I was like, fuck you. You gonna give me freaking $10 for this cigar? So, and I was very polite. I was like, sure. I was like, didn't even see it. Sorry, no big deal. But my feelings were very hurt because we had smoked out there last year like 24/7.
It sounds like it's a you issue. Your feelings shouldn't be hurt.
I was just like, there was no one out there. Like, there was a group on like a wall over there. It was just me and Thomas Irvin and his buddy Roy, and like we were just hanging out. But then I told Phil about it, and Phil went Saturday night and talked to the front desk people, and according to him, that wasn't even an employee of the hotel.
So the next night, I said, you know what? Let me get it from the horse's mouth. So I go to the front desk and I find like a managerial person, and I said, hey man, you know, there's a bunch of us that want to smoke cigars on the patio. Don't worry, you know, we'll social distance, but we do this every year. So, you know, we pay to stay in this hotel. Like, they can't use any of the amenities. You know, it's lockdown, it's COVID. You know, the least you could do is let us smoke on the patio. And he's like, sir, please don't be upset. You know, we never don't allow smoking. In fact, we have a smoking area with multiple cigarette ashtrays and blah, 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 blah. So he says, why don't I go outside with you and we can kind of look at what's going on and make sure that you and I are talking about the same thing. I said, sure, let's go. So he walks me out to the patio area, and sure as hell, he shows me, he's like, listen, these 4 or 5 tables by the stairs, we reserve for smoking individuals. And there's usually ashtrays. I don't know why they're gone. But he says, honestly, as long as no one's out here, you can smoke anywhere on the patio. And he says, it's very interesting that an employee would say that to your friend, because we have a very, leave it alone policy. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, nobody's going to tell you not to smoke. They're just going to maybe like put the sign saying like smoking over here and just kind of like give you the hint. But no one's going to. Yeah, no one's going to come over and be like, sir, you have to put that out. And I said, okay, well, that happened to my friend. He goes, honestly, sir, I hate to say it, but it probably wasn't an employee. And I was like, okay. So sure as hell, we sat down on the patio, and we wound up moving to a better location anyway, but still.
I was freaking ambushed.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not one of those people that's like, F you, I'm going to do what I want. Like, I understand not everybody wants to be around smoke and stuff. Very respectful of that. I went down and sat on the steps of the little fountain thing and wallowed in my frustration. And I don't know, but I mean, if it was an employee, he was a dick. Because it could have been like, hey, just so you know, we don't have any smoking out here. And I would have been like, that's cool, fine, whatever. He's like, sir, can you read that sign? And I was like,
no,
Florida, sir.
Like, no, I'm illiterate.
Yeah, it's been like, and now I'm going to sue because you're discriminating because I can't read.
Well, that's like, Matthew had his little portable cooler that he was bringing around everywhere. Cans, and Matthew put the cooler in front of the sign that says no outside food or beverage is permitted on patio. And he took a picture of the cooler with the beer in front of the sign. Oh man.
But Saturday night, I mean, there was a ton of us in that little patio pavilion thing smoking. Yeah. And I was like, I dare him to come say something now. There's
exactly
10
right.
of us.
Yeah. And dude, I'm glad Thomas is here. Thomas was with us, man. It was so great to meet him in person. He's an awesome guy. I'm glad he came out. It's good shit.
I was illiterate Saturday.
You were definitely illiterate Saturday. Should we show the video on here, Justin?
Sure.
Oh,
Let's show whatever this is.
It's Dominique's fault. Just so everyone knows ahead of time. Did
she liquor you up? What happened?
She had a bottle of Tito's.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
She was like, "Here, you want some?" And then
that's all it took.
I continually find a bottle in my hand. Oh God.
Are you sure you want to show this, Justin?
Sure.
All right, here we go.
It's an amazing government. Sing it for fucking it.
You guys hear it okay?
But then don't make shit. He's got way too much. This is my new call when I hate like. I've been selling. No. Federal scheme of What? Are you? God damn it! No.
Me and Billy had a game where we tried to take pictures of each other mid-bite while eating meals, and that's what he did. So
that sounds really lame from an outsider's perspective. I'm going to be honest, but
it's pretty fun.
Hilarious.
I sneak him, and he doesn't know about it, and then I send him to him. Yeah, Dominique got IHOP delivered, and I drank the syrup like they were shots.
That was the shirt of the night.
I don't drink a lot. Like, I especially don't binge drink a lot. But Daytona, man, I let loose. Look at those big old man titties, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even at like Carpet Fest we've been at, I haven't really seen you drink.
I've never really been into it, but I was like, You know what?
The problem,
gotta let the dragon loose.
The problem was that we had all been drinking, and Dominique brought that bottle of Tito's, and Justin polished it off. But then Dallas Rua came with a bottle of Glenfiddich, and he's like, "Oh, there's a couple fingers left in the bottom. Here, pass it around. The more the merrier." And of course, Justin polished off that bottle of scotch, and that was what I think really
put you over the edge.
I remember standing up, and like it was like Inception, like the entire freaking ground.
Yeah.
I don't even think Phil has the Perry the Platypus videos.
Oh, I do. Hold on. I have Perry the Platypus.
Apparently, Phil has videos of everything.
Oh, I do, because all these savages send them to me. Where is the...
Yeah, they all like send all these videos of me to each other. It's pretty funny. I haven't laughed this hard in so long.
I'm pretty sure
it seems like, and I'm sure it really helps the fact that everyone's been quarantined for so long. No one has like hung out in so long and done things. So it must have been fucking great.
It was.
Yeah. So I was laying at like a certain angle, which made my voice, like when I laughed, I made this weird like Honda noise. And I'm still drunk, laying in bed.
That was like 20 minutes of just straight laughing at myself like that.
It is borderline Wookiee, so there's
weird.
something to be said.
Yeah, I did send that video to them. I sent that video myself. I don't know. I thought it was hilarious.
It was good, man. And there's more videos that I'm not gonna play on the air that the girls sent me.
Whoa, Phil!
Nothing like that.
Hey.
No, nothing like that. Just him making obscure noises and saying like, I gotta drink more water and I need more water. And it's like, Justin, you're holding a bottle of water. Like, I know, but there should be more, like things like that. It was good.
Oh, that was at like a house party like 2 years ago.
No, that was you in the room that night.
Oh.
Yeah. And apparently Becca has more pictures and video of the two of us doing God knows what shenanigans that she hasn't even sent yet. So
I pride myself though. Like I'm not a big drinker. And I've also never had a hangover. Like I woke up Sunday morning.
He didn't.
Fine. You know what the trick is? I make sure I drink like at least 5 bottles of water before I go to sleep.
Yeah.
Save yourself from a hangover. You're fine the next morning. I had a headache. That was about it. And
I was shaking for all of Sunday Tinley last year.
Ooh.
I was just body tremors the whole time.
Gotta hydrate, man. The best stuff is like the electrolyte water, like Smart Water. You'll feel fine. You drink some of that, like down like a freaking liter of that, you're good.
Nice. I gotta do that. That Saturday morning, I barely drank Friday night, but I think it was from sweating, doing the tire stuff, and not drinking enough water. But I had a horrible hangover Saturday morning, and like Matthew was making fun of me and shit because I was like, oh my God. But I barely drank anything. I think it was legit.
Probably. It was like double dehydration.
Yeah. Which is hilarious because Matthew yacked his guts out Saturday night after all that debauchery we did. Ugh.
Daytona's fun.
Daytona's awesome. And like it's like we always say, man, Daytona is about hanging out with your chosen family. The animals are just a bonus. That's it.
And as it turns out, Phil was only literally a door down from me on our hotel room. Like we somehow ended up same floor, same hall.
Yeah.
What was crazy was a sign, buddy.
Was.
That's what we should have. I don't know. Maybe we weren't. Justin, did you go to Tinley last year? No, right?
I've never been to Tinley.
Must have been. Yeah. Because, that was fun.
Yeah, Casey lost a shoe to the ocean.
He did.
And apparently he had to go take a leak. And instead of just walking to, like, knee-deep water, he, like, walked up to his freaking sternum. And then decided to just, I guess, pee his pants in the water. I don't.
Well, so this is what I get. By the way, this picture says it all from that night. We were just schnockered, just gone. But apparently Casey had to go to the bathroom. He's like, I'm going to go to the ocean. So he walks his butt down to the ocean. But I guess when he got down there, I guess there was like kids playing on the beach or people or something. So he's like, I'm not going to, whip out my schwanz and just arc it into the water. So he wades into the water. Meanwhile, he's getting pelted with waves, loses his shoe, the poor bastard. And then he comes back, he's soaking wet, and we're all like, I thought you went to take a whiz. It's like,
I can just see him out there just getting the shit kicked out of him by waves while he's trying to take a leak.
Yeah. Casey, my shoe will never return to me. I asked him, I said, you keep the one souvenir? He says, yeah.
It's mounted on my wall. He had everybody sign it.
Dude, this
You
is
should have.
an impossible time to get to Florida for, I don't know, having so many babies, but I'm definitely going next year. Maybe I'll just vend and that will be my excuse.
Yeah, man. Can't hurt, right?
It's only like a 19-hour drive.
Yeah.
About that. No, it's not even 19 hours.
That is what I like about Daytona. Is Daytona's? It's like 4 hours for me. It's nothing.
So I'm about 3.5 hours south of Daytona, and when I would make my annual pilgrimage to Philadelphia, I would do it in about 16 and a half, 17 hours. So shave 4 hours, 3.5 hours off of that, and there's your Daytona trip.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. Then again, like Tinley, in comparison to vending it and just hanging out's a lot more fun. So we'll see.
I always say that if I ever went to Tinley, which I plan on doing, I don't want to tell anyone I'm going. I just want to go as like a fly on the wall, just kind of observe.
Well, now everybody knows.
They don't know when I'm going to go. They don't know which show.
It doesn't make you blend in. Everyone who knows you will know you, Phil.
I know. Just pull my eyes up really low. And I also feel dumb because I don't think I would ever want to go to Tinley without bringing like $5,000 in cash and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's really, I guess, I don't know. Some people say that that's where Daytona is different now.
What the hell? Who sent you that?
Cox. You people have too much time on your hands.
I love them.
But I feel like that's what people say Daytona used to be, is like the whole thing where it's you have people from out of the states coming to buy things, and you have animals that like you've basically never seen before.
Oh, well, that was the thing is like I'm actually going to pull up a picture of Daytona from back in the day. Daytona Reptile Show 2006.
Because like
whoa, I barely even saw Carly all weekend. Carly was busy being a social butterfly.
Here, let me screen share this for you.
Carly Jones is in Florida, and I barely saw her.
So that's what Daytona used to look like. And like, it's kind of
a high school gym.
No, well, that's the old convention center before they renovated it. So this is like the old school style, and then they basically knocked this down. And like, can you guys see my mouse or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, see this walkway up here? This was basically a walkway of a second story where you could look over and see all the vending. And then I would say this is probably maybe 2 or 3 high school gymnasiums this direction and wide. And then up here, you had like, there was a venomous room back here. There was venomous up top. There was all dry goods sellers up top. And then you had major companies like, Nerd would come and they would have 15 or 20 tables, everything retics and tokays and crazy shit. And then you had all the wholesalers that would bring countless imports because it was not captive bred only back then. You could have whatever you wanted. And it was just this massive Glades Herp would show up. They'd have 30 or 40 tables. They would have an entire aisle that would just be Glades Herp. And then you'd also see guys, fighting over money and guys getting bit when they were bagging venomous and they shouldn't have. And it was a little bit of a shit show, but it was a breathtaking sight. Like I remember my first couple ones and I was like, what did I just walk into?
I remember just hearing the older people talk about, say, like Peter Call coming out of that show, or multiple people coming out of that show with hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah,
like money that we do not see anymore.
Well, yeah, but that's the running joke is that there's 2 guys in Daytona with fanny packs, big muscly white guys with a gun, or tiny little Asian guys with hundreds of thousands of cash. Yeah, and that's it. And you'd see one little Japanese man with his entourage of, 10 or 15 guys. Every single one of them would have a fanny pack full of cash. They'd walk over to a guy that was breeding, corn snakes, that was breeding corn snakes or Pac-Man frogs or whatever, they lay down $50,000-$60,000, they wouldn't even touch the animal. It would just get straight exported out to Asia. And like, you don't see that anymore. It just doesn't happen anymore. I don't remember the exact year, Thomas, is when venomous stopped. I think it might have been 2006 maybe or 2005. But basically, whatever stories they tell of, oh, it was too expensive, or, oh, the insurance. No, the real reason is because when you have venomous in an expo, there should be proper protocol in terms of bagging and containering and transporting venomous. So like, for example, Colombia is a good example where they have venomous escorts. So the venomous section is totally separate from the rest of the show. You have to be 18 or whatever to walk into the area. And when you buy something, you don't touch it until you're ready to leave. When you're ready to leave, that animal is then brought into a bagging room, which is usually like a broom closet or something, a janitor's closet. And 2 or 3 venomous escorts, who are guys who know what they're doing, would bag or container the animal for you. And then they would carry that animal and escort you to your vehicle to leave. And you wouldn't take possession until you were leaving. They did the same thing in Daytona. But the problem is people are stupid. They're impatient or whatever. And they're like, I don't need an escort. I'm just going to go bag it in the bathroom. And, there was one time where a guy had a rattlesnake get away from him and it caused a big scene. There was another time where a guy got bitten by a Western Diamondback in the bathroom because he was trying to bag it on a toilet seat. So, like, it was just stupidity. You know what I mean? They ruined it themselves. And at the same time, that was right when the venomous laws changed in Florida, and it was the required hours for a license. So anybody who didn't already have the license, you were screwed. You had to, you couldn't buy stuff willy-nilly. You had to get your permit. So it was right around that 2005, 2006, maybe, something like that.
Yeah, that's are there really any big? I guess Tinley doesn't do venomous. Daytona, the big one's probably Texas. I know there's
a
show in
Texas. Columbia is still pretty awesome.
Well, there's that south of the border show too, but I haven't been to that one yet.
Yeah, south of the border had a handful of venomous, but it wasn't like, it didn't have a big enough venomous section, much like Columbia did. But I like south of the border show. I thought it was pretty good. And the original Myrtle Beach show, which became south of the border, I thought it was a great show. I thought it was a great venue. I think it was just too new of a show to attract the volume of people like Tinley and Daytona and Pomona and stuff like that.
Do you think Tinley is bigger than Daytona?
I've never been there, but people tell me it is.
Yeah, if I was to take that picture that Phil just put up and put it against today's Daytona, or today's Tinley, then Tinley's much bigger.
Okay, so then the Daytona of today is a third the size of that.
Gotcha. So it is a relatively normal-ish show by today's standards, like a good show by today's standards, but not. Yeah, I mean, Pomona was what I heard is even larger than Tinley, just by size, Well,
you can't call it the super show and it not be gigantic.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's really super.
I do want to get to Tinley eventually. I definitely got to check that out.
I'm trying to find pictures of Daytona from this weekend, and there is none.
Yeah, I think having, we had just as much silly times at Tinley, but that's us all being together, bringing back. And I mean, Billy was there last Tinley and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
he got hooked on the freaking spilotes and bird snakes and stuff
when he was with
Jason.
Yeah. Those are, crazy.
That's how you get Billy, man. You just show him something with stripes, or you show him some sort of weird colubrid from like Asia, and you got him. Like, that's it. Yeah.
And dude, Billy made it like a bandit this show. He sold snakes and bought cool ones. He got some Lafe Carinata. He got some.
I didn't even check those out, man. I saw them sitting there, but I didn't.
They were babies, so they were still kind of meh looking. But as far as babies go, flawless.
There was a table with Northern Pines I wanted so bad. I do want a Northern Pine or a pear.
Oh yeah, I would love to have a great black and white Northern.
That's the only Pituophis I really have any interest in, other than the Kankakee bulls.
So I saw these high red northerns recently. They're like, fuck it. I gotta find the picture. Yeah, these things were incredible. I love black and white, but these kind of opened my eyes to something different. All pits, and I mean, yeah, I love pits in general. But
I just remember at that same nature center I worked at, man, we had this massive pine that was like such a freaking impressive animal, man. And when that thing wanted you gone, you knew it. Like, it was intimidating. Like a big, pissed off northern man. Like, that's a force to be reckoned with. And there was like young, like maybe yearlings. Actually, given how big they were when they hatched, they probably weren't even yearlings, but they were really nice. So the table wanted like $250 a piece for them. So I'll get some eventually. It was just one of those things. I already had my Bairds and stuff and my Subok.
yeah, that will be you'll be a full blown colubrid guy at some point.
Never.
You're pretty damn close.
Thomas, I think I know which ones you're talking about. Those are really dark ones. See, that's the other thing. Like, if I get northern pines, I want ones from like around here. I don't want like New Jerseys or anything like that. I want like
blasphemy, dude. Blasphemy. All the good black and whites are from Jersey.
I don't even care. Like, yeah, dude, those things were sweet. I don't have a picture of them, but actually, I might. Actually. Like, I don't care, with the northern pines if it's a Jersey giant or anything like that. I just want a northern pine because they're cool.
No love for any of the other Pituophis?
Like I said, I like the Kankakees, but kind of like the scrubs. It's just one of those things where it's like if I had a certain kind, I'd be down, but
have you seen a good Depai Jani?
I have. There were some pretty Mexican pines.
Yeah.
Those were cool looking. Yeah, right here. Look at how dark that is.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like the coolest looking pit.
That's a northern?
Yeah.
That's not Kankakee?
No, that's a northern. That's from up the coast.
Nice.
From an undisclosed location.
Oh, of course. Where'd Phil go?
I don't know. Maybe his cousin
retreat.
was calling in with the pregnancy results. Oh, there he is.
Sorry about that, gentlemen. I had a very, very important missed call. Quick one.
God damn it.
What? What I missed?
Joe literally just said, "Where'd Phil go?" I said, "I don't know. He probably got an important call from his cousin about the pregnancy results." And then you just sat down and said,
"Oh, Jesus!" No, my security company called saying that my alarm at work was having issues and they're having outages in the area. And then at the same time, I couldn't get my cameras to operate on my phone. So I got the cameras up. They spoke to one of my other coworkers, so it's fine. But yeah,
off on someone else because shit rolls downhill.
Yep, pretty much. So I'm just happy I don't have to go there right now because that would have been shitty.
One of the best things I got for the weekend of Daytona.
Ooh, look at that animal.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this was Jen Strickland in the chat said, this is RNP reptiles. These are some northerns, some really good ones.
God, it'd be cool to have some of those, man.
Dude, it's like just cookies and cream, man.
This is the problem. Like, I need to be producing stuff in order to buy these things, but I'm not producing anything. Well, I got the Cyanea, but...
Dude, those are fucking sick. Congrats on that.
Those won't even be ready until probably next year to even go anywhere. So,
yeah, I mean that's
definitely won't because they're not going to hatch until like mid-November.
That's a long road ahead, right? With lizards.
No, I'm just assist feed tails until they start taking off. I'll probably do what David Brahms did because he, with some of his chondros, he was actually dipping the pinkies, like the back half, in like Pangea gecko diet, and then feeding it to them, and that gives them a nice boost of minerals and stuff. And
so that's why I'm getting asked by chondro dudes about this Repashy stuff.
Yep.
All of a sudden, I sell Repashy, and then my only customers are chondro guys. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
I got this awesome travel case from Phil.
Oh, and Chris Montrose has taken up most of the real estate on there.
And I got some stickers from Adeline Robinson.
Nice.
So it looks like my middle school trapper keeper.
Nice.
You can put your weed in there.
You could hide your weed in there.
If I had smoked such a thing, I would probably. But I only smoke cigars and drink like twice a year.
Remember that movie? What was it? The hot chick? Adam Sandler, and he's like, you could hide your weed in there.
Yeah, it's an old, I believe it's a carryover from an SNL skit or something like that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cyania eggs, though, man, I'm pumped. Like, I was fully expecting to get like 4 eggs and them not be any good because it's her first time and she's actually pretty small. So I was like, this is probably going to be a downer. But freaking 9, like 9 is a decent clutch for those things. So
the head on that adult animal is huge.
On the Cyania?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're blockheads.
Yeah, it's like striking.
When I had so I got a pair originally from Jordan Russell before he got out of Boyga. The male I lost, but when I had them and they were still little green-headed worms, I called them the blockhead twins because it's almost hilarious how big their head is compared to their body, especially when they're small like that.
Yeah.
Like a oh yeah.
And I don't care what people say. People think that these things, like if you get bit, it's not that big of a deal. If you see a large Cyania and you see somebody freehand, like I will say freehandly, I guess, like that thing will hurt. That will not be fun.
Definitely not cool.
I have seen small ones like yearlings give some pretty gnarly bites. I mean, fortunately, they're not nearly as like feisty as most of your mangroves, but you know, I don't trust mine enough to.
I don't blame you.
To handle them willy nilly, you know. I'm a firm believer. Just anything that's rear fang, be it a hog nose or anything like that, is probably something you just don't want to get bit by and don't want to find out about.
Yeah. Yep.
You can call me a pansy. You can call me whatever you want. I'll be the one that doesn't have to go to the hospital,
right,
for antibiotics or whatever they'll put you on. Yeah, like that one with the hand, like one that size. I forget what's her last name. Her name is Ashley, but she's with Northern Lights Imports or whatever in Canada. She got bit by one about that size, and she got some really gnarly swelling.
Yeah, you never know when you inject foreign proteins into your body what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Unless they're steroids. Phil's good on those. Phil says those don't mess with you at all.
Never touched
The entire weekend was just us roasting Phil. Like, I feel bad. Like, it was just us just grilling Phil. It was a Phil grill the entire time.
And here it is, still here.
It didn't help when Jay Eaton's kids were me. Oh.
He couldn't catch a break. At some point, I just stopped doing it. I was like, you know, I could tell. I could see the hurt in his eyes. Like, he just wants to go back to his room and be done.
Yeah, it's like I got Jay's 15-year-old daughter who took my chair out because hers was wet. She wanted mine because I'd already sat and it was dry. She swapped chairs with me. I'm like, why is my chair still wet? You know, his son, who's probably 10, he's like, does it hurt to be fat? Like stuff like that. Or like better yet, they take a picture of me and then they have like the photo app on their phone because they're children's phones. That's what happens nowadays. And like they have the app where you could like touch the person's face and like make their face like droopy or like wrinkly or whatever. So they just kept showing me pictures of myself with them making me look all like fucked up and weird. Oh, kids.
Bunch of bullies, man. Sorry, Phil. Glad you're still here.
Right.
He took it like a champ.
They wouldn't do it if they didn't love me.
It's true.
That's what you say, anyway.
Right? Yeah, that's what I tell myself. So lets me sleep at night.
Yeah, man. I hope that we're able to have a maybe Tinley this year or whenever the hell people gather, and we could get together, and I wouldn't feel so fucking jealous of this whole Daytona experience you guys just had.
It's always next year, buddy.
Always next year. The show must go on.
Yeah, there's just so many baby colubrids this time of year, but I'll figure it out. But if you guys, I guess, wrapping this bitch up, we're about 2 hours and 15 minutes in. Anything else you guys want to share about Daytona or anything else that you guys got at the show?
Beware of the concession stand because you'll pay $3 for a can of soda.
Yep.
And $3 for a bottle of water.
Yeah.
Soft pretzels are amazing. But it's a soft pretzel. How can you go wrong?
Do yourself a favor. I know it's expensive, but if you can stay at the Hilton Resort on Daytona Beach, it is literally across the street from the convention center.
You don't even have to leave.
You don't have to leave. You don't have to go anywhere. They have the valet there and everything. Outdoor pool. They have a spa, and it's on the beach. They have like a boardwalk area. There's an amphitheater with like a miniature mall in case you want to go shopping, like for beach stuff or restaurants and things to do that way. They do a special room rate for the expo. So if you tell them that you're there for, National Reptile Breeders Expo, whatever, I think it's like 130 opposed to like 180 a night. You still have to pay like the taxes and fees, and the valet is like $30 and whatever else. But it's definitely worth it. That way you don't have to go anywhere.
It's even better if you can split a room with like 3 or 4.
Absolutely.
And what's wild is that it's cheaper to stay in Daytona pretty much on the beach than it is to stay in Tinley.
How much are the rooms in Tinley?
Easily that 165. I would say easily for the ones that are actually in the convention center.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the other thing too is the show. All right, so you're not supposed to have animals in the hotel, but they realize who we are, what we do, and they've been doing it for 20 years. So it's not awkward for you to walk around the lobby with a giant pixie frog in a Sterilite container, because people aren't going to be like, oh my God, he's got a frog. They're going to be like, oh my God, look at that giant frog. That's so cool. Or like you see strangers in the elevator who just came back from the beach. They have their swimsuits and their beach towels, and you have a Sterilite full of deli cups. And they're like, oh, what do you guys got? Are you at the snake show? And people are kind of cool about it, which I think is awesome.
And I didn't hear anything about, even last year, didn't hear anything about any animals getting loose or anything like that. Never saw any get loose at the show. Everyone seems to do a pretty good job of keeping things contained. So,
awesome.
Except for that damn scrub that Dominique insisted I take out.
Yeah.
So, being alcohol plus scrub python. How'd that work out?
No, so you take them out of the bag, but then you realize you have to get them in the bag. But then when they're curled up, ready to go, it's kind of hard to get them in the bag.
If you had slid your hand underneath him and just started giving him a treadmill, like you would do with any other snake, he would have been perfectly fine. The problem is this is his first time ever seeing 8 giant humans standing around leering at him. So naturally he's going to S up and be defensive. You just gotta.
I don't want to get bit by that damn
thing. At ease. I offered to take him, and you're like, no, I will bag him. I will bag him.
Too much pride.
My name is Justin. I can do it.
I have a podcast and a magazine.
Yeah. Literally, that was the saying of the weekend. 3 things to sum up Daytona 2020. I have a podcast and a magazine. The word frothy
got used a lot.
And oh no, now I can't remember the third one. Carly and Dominique are going to kill me. Now I can't remember the third one.
Vodka's awesome.
What's that?
I said vodka's awesome.
Vodka is pretty all right. I'm not a big fan of potato water, but
where can people find you? Where can people find your podcast and magazine?
Yeah.
You can find THP, Snakes and Stogies, who I do with Philium here. and the ConjureCast, twice a year I do an episode at this point, and those are all on the Herpeticulture Network pages. So you can find the shows, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or Google Podcasts. It's about to switch over apparently, and SoundCloud. And the magazine is herpeticulturemagazine.com. It's Herpeticulture Magazine on Facebook and Instagram.
Phil Wolf, where can they find you?
You can find me doing stuff with the Herpeticulture Network, as well as at knobtails.ig on Instagram, showing off a bunch of geckos. I put some snake stuff in the story, and we're all one big happy herpeticulture family.
Hell yeah. As for me, portcitypet.com, portcitypet, Instagram, Facebook, all of that stuff. Justin, Phil, thanks for hanging out.
Thanks for having us. Good night.
Later, guys.